They stood in single file to perform the last prayers while two companions of the Imam, Saiyid and Zohair, stood in front of the line to hold back all the arrows that were coming towards them. Once the Imam finished the last words of his prayer, these two soldiers died of exhaustion. The last of the companions of the Imam died and only relatives remained. First to go was Imam Ali's son, Ali Akbar, who fought bravely but thirst for 3 days was the most important factor involved these martyrs. He was also killed, and then the Imam's nephew Qasim went and was killed. Then four of his brothers Usman, Jafar, Abdullah, and Abbas were killed. Imam then brought his 6-month-old son Ali Asghar. He brought him in his arms under the shade of his cloak. He told the audience, "This baby has not done any harm to you. He is thirsty. Give him some water." The commander of Yazid's army ordered Hormuzd, who was the best marksman, to kill the baby. Hormuzd pulled the bow, and the arrow killed the baby instantly. Imam brought the baby near the camp, informed his mother of the martyrdom of the baby. He then buried the baby in the sand. Afterwards, Imam himself went for battle. But before that, he introduced himself again, that he was the grandson of the Prophet, in case anyone had doubts about him, and that his guilt was only to refuse the accept of oath of allegiance of the tyrannical ruler Yazid. The enemy was thirsty for the blood of the Imam. They were blind in their eagerness to kill the last of the family of the Prophet. They fell upon his injured and tired body like bloodhounds, and soon the Imam was also killed. The battle ended in one day. The evening of the 10th was the darkest for the women and children of the family of the Prophet. Camps were set alight and burned, their possessions were looted. It was late at night while they were huddled together waiting for further tortures from the enemy side, that they saw the wife of Hord coming towards them with food and water. They were hungry and thirsty, but none of them was keen to take anything, not even the youngest of the children. Imam Hussein's youngest daughter, Sakina, took the tumbler of water and ran towards the open field. Her aunt Zainab asked where she was running to, and she replied, her little brother Ali Asghar was thirsty. She was taking some water for him, not knowing the little Ali Asghar was already dead, but being the victim of Hermela's arrow. Night passed, and the morning came with more pain and grief, when they saw that the bodies of the enemy were buried with the grandson of the Prophet, with all his sons and brothers, companions, lied unburied on the desert sand. The women and children were taken prisoners with the ailing son of Imam, the 22-year-old Ali, leading this battle caravan towards Kufa as Imam of the family. He was now the 4th Imam. The body of these martyrs were buried on the 3rd day by the tribesmen of Bani Asad, guided by the 4th Imam who was with them miraculously battle in prison in Kufa. Salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Alia and I'll be telling you about the 14 lessons from Karbala. Humanity has been provided with many lessons to learn from the events at Karbala. It is a source of divine enlightenment and a true road to the salvation of mankind. Number 1, don't accept humiliation. In one of his speeches, Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, said that the authorities in Kufa had given him only 2 options: humiliation or death. He carried on saying, and we do not accept humiliation. A tradition reported by Imam Sadiq, peace be upon him, records that other than not accepting humiliation, Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to believers a choice in all manners. Number 2, keep an open mind. This means thinking independently and being just in one's judgments, not simply following others blindly and keeping one's eyes closed. On the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein addressed Yazid's troops, "May Allah remove his mercies from them. O followers of Abu Sufyan, if you're not following the teachings of Islam, then as free men, be independent of judgment. On what basis do you fight me now?" Number 3, a deeper understanding of death. Few people desire death. The Holy Quran challenges the Jews for not welcoming death in view of their alleged special relationship with Almighty Allah. Imam Hussein deepened our comprehension of death by drawing attention to the 3 points below. Death is written for everyone and no soul can escape it, he said. Death is an adornment of life as a necklace and an adornment of a beautiful woman. Death with dignity is preferable to a life lived in humiliation. Dying for the cause of Islam is martyrdom and great honor. In his farewell to relatives in Medina, the Imam said, whoever joins us will be martyred. Those who remain behind will miss the victory. Number 4. Awareness. Desertion is discouraged via military court, martial, and firing squads. A commander has never given troops permission to evade the battlefield before or after Imam Hussein. The Imam himself would like all of them to be aware of the consequences of the impending action before any accepted the challenge. Number 5. Support the truth. Imam Hussein announced, don't you see that the truth has been replaced by falsehood? We must be prepared to sacrifice anything that is precious in support of the truth. Truth is the essence of Islam and fortifies the value emphasized in the Holy Quran. Hazrat Ali Akbar asked his father, are we not on the right path? The Imam replied in the affirmative. Hazrat Ali Akbar then said, then it makes no difference if death comes to us or if we approach death. Number 6. Never too late to repent. Her Ali Riyahi, the first commander to surround Imam Hussein's troops and prevent their access to the water of the Euphrates, provides an excellent illustration of repentance. Regarding his action, he asked Imam Hussein if repentance would be accepted. The Imam told him that it is never too late to repent. Her joined the Imam Hussein's camp and was honored by being one of the first martyrs. Number 7. Fidelity and loyalty. Fidelity is a characteristic admired by all. If friends meet in times of comfort and wealth, but leave when hardships and difficulties strike, it is clear that their friendship is not true. On the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein told John, a servant of the renowned companion Hazrat Abu Dhar, you have accompanied us all of the way, but now you may go, John replied. It is not fair that I benefit from your company and hospitality, but abandon you in your hardship. His attitude exemplifies fidelity, loyalty, and true friendship. Number 8. Participation of the ladies. Without Lady Zainab's participation in Karbala, the mission of Imam Hussein could not have been fulfilled. Number 9. The pleasure of Allah. The objective of all the believers should be please Almighty Allah. Imam Hussein said in one of his speeches that the only objective of Prophet Holy Household, peace be upon him, is to please Allah. Whenever he saw family members martyred, he would utter, it's bearable only because Allah is its only witness. Number 10. Giving preference to the needs of others. In Islamic terminology, giving preference to the other of others is referred to as isar. On the day of Ashura, the actions of Hazrat Abbas, brother of Imam Hussein, exemplify isar. Hazrat Abbas fought bravely to gain access to the water of the Euphrates. He gave no consideration to his own thirst, but strove instead to bring water to his tents for the women and children. Number 11. Patience in adversity. Allah tells us in the Holy Quran that those only who remain patient will receive reward without measure. Imam Hussein, a living example of what the Quran taught, was happy to remain patient in hardship and endurance and to await his Lord's reward. His patience wasn't out of weakness or helplessness, but it was a demonstration of his steadfastness and bravery. Those who saw the Imam on the day of Ashura reported, we have never seen a man remaining as composed as Imam Hussein, whereas his relatives and children were slaughtered before his eyes. Number 12. Significance of Amr bil Ma'ruf. Imam Hussein declared in a speech that the only objective of seeking this reform was to emphasize the significance of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahil anil Munkar, and joining good and forbidding evil. Number 13. Use of lawful means to reach a goal. Imam Hussein tried to stop Umar ibn Saad from pursuing his evil objectives. He said to him, you are promised by the government of very modern-day Tehran, yet you will never eat the wheat of that area. Ibn Saad responded, it will suffice, realizing that he couldn't change Ibn Saad's mind. Imam Hussein said, those who are on lawful means to achieve their objectives never attain us. Number 14. Chastity and hijab. After the tragedy of Ashura, women and children became prisoners of war and were taken first from Karbala to Kufa, then to Damascus. They were tortured en route and forced to walk behind the soldiers who carried the heads of Imam Hussein and his companions, mounted on spears. When they arrived at Yazid's headquarters in Damascus, Imam Sajjad, peace be upon him, asked that the heads be removed from the proximity of the women and children in order to protect them from the spectators. Salawat.
Excellent, Aliyah and Mehdi, for their success and for their help. Please do salawat for these children. I ask Brother Jalil to come and say Marsiya salawat.
For Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
It's about Fatima al-Masuma when the Imam Hussein left. She wanted to go with them to Karbala, but because she was too sick, he said, no, you have to stay behind. Then she said, why don't you leave Abdullah? And he said, no, he's coming with us. So that's what she was saying.
For Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
ما ضركم لو كنت بين نسائكم أعيش في ذل الأسى وأضام أحنى عليها ثم قبل ثغرها والدمع فاض كما يفيض ركام الله ما حال الحسين بمشهد فيه الحسين فؤاده أقسام أتعود يا أبتي لدارك سالما أتعود يا أبتي لدارك سالما هيهات يرجى للحسين سلام ألا لا تزان الدار إلا بأهلها على الدار من بعد الحسين سلام أنا على فراقكم ما شفت راحة وانا راح اضل بس للنياحة يوم فراقكم اظلم صباحا والتفقد وليها تهجع شلون جلست على باب الدار وهي تنادي بلسان حالها أنا لو أقف على بابك يا هالدار وانشد عليك الراح والمار أنا عليلة وهلي من فارقوني وحشة الدار اخطفت لوني وانا بيه يا ابويا بيتكم خالي وانا بيه نابي نصد عليكم وانا ابي خذيت الطفل من عندي وانا ابي بل قد يسيد خلتكم علي بل كان يسيد خلتكم علي. اللهم صل على
I asked brother to come and say Marcia. You want to do it? Okay. Anybody else wants to do it? Otherwise, I'll do it then. Mahmood Bhai, is Mahmood Bhai here? Okay. For Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے ہیں سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے ہیں سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے ہیں دین محمدی کے گلشن کھلا دیے ہیں سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے ہیں دین نبی پیواری اکبر نبی جوانی دین نبی پیواری اکبر نبی جوانی عباس نے بھی اپنے عباس نے بھی اپنے بازو کٹا دیے ہیں سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے زینب کے باغ میں جو دو پھول تھے مہکتے زینب کے باغ میں جو دو پھول تھے مہکتے زینب نے وہ بھی دونوں زینب نے وہ بھی دونوں راہ خدا دیے ہیں سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے ہیں بولے حسین مولا تیری رضا کی خاطر بولے حسین مولا تیری رضا کی خاطر ایک ایک کر کے میں نے ایک ایک کر کے میں نے ہیرے لٹا دیے ہیں سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے ہیں شبیر کی ہی ایسی پردرد داستان ہے شبیر کی ہی ایسی پردرد داستان ہے دل پتھروں کے واللہ دل پتھروں کے واللہ جس نے ہلا دیے ہیں سید نے کربلا میں وعدے نبھا دیے ہیں بخشش ہے اس کی لازم سید کے غم میں حاضر بخشش ہے اس کی لازم سید کے غم میں حاضر دو چار آنسو رو کر دو जिसने बहा दिए सैयद ने करबला में वादे निभा दिए हैं दीने मोहम्मदी के गुलशन खिला दिए हैं सैयद ने करबला में बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद I would request all the Mu'mineen to please come forward all the way, please, all the way. I would request Maulana also to come to the member. Today, after the majlis, after the matam, when you go to the dinner, we may have a question answer session. So if you want to take your food and come upstairs, it's like an informal meeting with Maulana upstairs. If you have questions, he can answer those also. Blood drive is going on outside. And if you have registered your name, you are please welcome to go there. 3 loudest salawat, please.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
नारे तकबीर नारे रिसाला या रसूल अल्लाह नारे हैदरी बराए खुशनुदी इमाम ज़माना बुलंदतर सलावा
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين للتراب مقدمه الفدا ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين صلوات على محمد مؤمنين مؤمنات brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today in the beginning I'll spend a bit more time going through some of the questions that were put up on Slido. A lot were added last night, so inshallah I'll spend, if I don't spend some time at the beginning of every discussion going through these questions, then they're going to start piling up. So I'm going to spend a few minutes going through these inshallah. So the first, we had one question left over from last night regarding blood donation, right? So we said that there's no condition, you can give blood to anyone, it's fine, unless you have absolute certainty that your blood is going to go help somebody who will go and has an intention to go harm somebody, attack Muslims, etc., which is almost an impossibility to know. So the other side of the question was about receiving blood, blood transfusions. So I checked on Ayatul Sistani's website, and somebody specifically asked the question, is it okay to receive blood from a Hindu? And the answer was yes, there's no problem with it. So this is the answer that I found, and it seems from that answer that there is no issue in receiving blood from anyone else as well. Next question was, it seems that Imam Hussein alayhi salam paid a lot of importance to receiving an Islamic burial. Why was this? Why not ask Banu Asad for water or something else important, etc.? But why would he ask for an Islamic burial? So this is an interesting question. I've never thought about it or come across it myself. So there's nothing that I've seen in my limited research which would kind of definitely and definitively answer this question, right? We can only assume and give a hypothetical answer here. what we know of the Ahlul Bayt, as we've been mentioning and as we highlighted last night, is the Ahlul Bayt had completely destroyed their ego. There was no sense of self in them. Everything that they thought about, that they said, that they did, was all for Allah's sake, right? They had complete ma'rifat of Allah. When you have complete ma'rifat of Allah, the way that you give ahmiyat and importance to things is always going to be based on what makes Allah radi and happy, right? Whatever Allah wants, you're going to do that and nothing else. So, if we think about this idea of water, yes, if you and I were at Karbala, we would probably try and do our best to try to get water, right? To make sure we store it beforehand, or on the battlefield, we try to run to Furat and Qaman, try to get that water. Imam Hussein, though, it seems as though, again, this is just a hypothetical answer, an assumption of thinking. Imam Hussein, his concern is about Allah's wishes. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So Allah's consideration, Imam Hussein alayhi salam and all the Ahlul Bayt, their main concern is the Sharia of Allah, to make sure Allah's wishes are followed. So if it's a choice between, if there was a choice, we're not putting it that way, but for them, what's going to have a higher priority? Water or an Islamic burial? Obviously an Islamic burial, right? Because this has to do with one's spirituality, right? I don't want to get into the details of the effects on the soul that happens when you're buried in an Islamic manner versus if you're buried in a non-Islamic manner. But there are effects after you die on your soul even then. So Imam's concern is what pleases Allah, not which something that will quote-unquote please him or take care of him. And we have another good analogy from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So I'm sure many of you, most of you have heard this story before, right? Somebody, one of the companions was sitting with the Imam and they're having some food and the Imam has a piece of harsh, like dry bread with him, right? So it's really tough. So Imam was trying to break it with his hands and he couldn't do it. So he ended up, apparently, according to this narration, he had to like use his knee and break it on his knee. So this companion, the Sahaba, is asking the Imam, like, Ya Mawla, I've seen you rip the door of Khaybar off. How could you not break a piece of bread with your hands? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. He said, I'll tell you why. He says, because that Khaybar, that ripping off the door and the gate of Khaybar, was for the sake of Allah. But this piece of bread is for me. This is why I don't have that same spiritual strength. So we see that the Imams, they devote everything for the sake of Allah. Everything is prioritized like that. So something like water, I don't want to say it doesn't cross the Imam's mind. That's not my point. My point is an Islamic burial matters more, perhaps, because it has to do with Allah. It has to do with the Sharia. Water has to do with, quote-unquote, the Imam's body, right? His own self. And perhaps maybe this is why he paid so much importance to that versus asking for other things. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Next question. Since we talked about wudu 2 nights ago. So the person had asked, regarding the wudu for someone from another school of thought, like the Ahlul Sunnah, if they don't perform it properly, then does that also mean that their salah is incorrect as well? For example, they wash their head and they wash their feet instead of wiping them. Does that, since their wudu is nullified, does that also mean that their salah is batil and nullified as well? And this is an interesting question. So the brother who asked, we spoke privately about it, but I figured it is an interesting question, so I'd share the answer with all of you as well, or at least the shortened version. So this idea of other schools of thought and other religions, whether their actions will be accepted by God or not, is something that's discussed in our fiqh books, in our usul books. And again, I have to give you the short version because it's a long discussion. But basically, our mujtahideen have they've derived a principle that says that according to someone else's school of thought, if they follow their specific rules, whatever they use, logic or reasoning, for example, from somebody who is following the Ahlul Sunnah school of thought, whatever madhab they follow, if they use their specific resources, the Quran and Sunnah for them, right, their ahadith, and they come to a specific conclusion, then they're answerable to God with that. So we don't say that their wudu is batil, and we don't say that their salah doesn't count, or their hajj doesn't count. That's incorrect. Their wudu is correct for them. Their salah is correct for them. Their hajj is correct for them. And this is why many of our ulama also allow us to pray behind Ahlul Sunnah, because if it didn't count, then how could we pray behind them, right, and join them? So their actions count for them. Now, does that mean we can do the same thing as them? No, of course not. Why? Because we follow our own scholars, our own marajir, and they have their own specific proofs, right? So the Ahlul Sunnah have their stuff, and it's accepted according to God, based on their own research, and we have our own stuff as well. Next question. How do I know if I'm connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in prayer, in namaz, in my daily life, or in my daily life? You stated in one of your speeches that life would feel different. What's an example? Okay, so there's two parts here, right? So the first part, we know that we're connected to Allah. To determine how connected you are to God is very simple. How many of God's rules are you actually following? That's one simple way, right? Are you following the things which are wajib? Are you staying away from the things that are haram? Are you trying your best to do the things that are recommended in mustahab? Are you trying your best to keep away from things that are makruh? This kind of tawfiq and opportunity is something that Allah blesses people with, right? To be able to do these things. So that means at a bare minimum, that's the kind of connection you could develop. At a higher level, somebody, let's say in their prayers, which is wajib, if they can connect to Allah in prayer, they might, for example, feel humble. They might feel thankful. There's going to be some emotional change in their mind, in their heart. Some ulama, the imams obviously have this stage, but you see if you watch some of these videos of the ulama, like good examples, Ayatollah Bahjat, rahmatullah alayh. If you watch his salah, the way that he prayed, he could barely finish an ayat, he could barely finish a surah without crying, right? He couldn't control himself. Some of us, when we have that strong connection to the Ahlul Bayt, then when people try to recite poetry, they sometimes pause and they stop. They can't control themselves and they can't control their tears because they have such a strong connection to the Shuhada of Karbala. So even when they try to recite those lines of poetry, they break down and they stop. If our salah was that strong, we'd break down our salah as well. And again, it sounds like it's difficult, but that is an ideal that we should be shooting for, inshallah. So as far as a daily life example as well, if you feel yourself connected so much that in every instant you're asking a question such that, okay, is God happy with me right now? Or if you're going to make all these small decisions in your life. One example is, let's say you go grocery shopping. You decide to buy whatever, some frozen dinner or some salad dressing, whatever it is. A certain level of taqwa, which means being conscious of God, a certain person at that level of taqwa won't buy it without checking the ingredients first. And especially given our society, so many things without us knowing have a lot of haram ingredients in them, and religious ingredients. There's so many sauces and frozen dinners which have chicken broth or white wine, and most of us don't have, even if we think they're vegetarian. Like as an example, like I like shrimp dishes, right? So a lot of those frozen bagged like shrimp and vegetable dishes, you check on the back, I guarantee it's going to have white wine inside. A lot of them are cooked like that, right? Italian cooking usually calls for white wine. So somebody who's taqwa oriented, who's connected to God, in every instance, they're going to turn around and make sure that there's nothing that's going to take them away from Allah. Before I go on to the next question, if you can all move up as far as possible with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salawat ala Muhammad. Now that's one example of buying groceries and things like that. There's another example as well, which I think might be more contemporary or maybe more relevant to people around my age or younger. So we talked about how you can turn things in your life and take examples and take lessons, right? So let's say you watched a movie recently. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'll give you an example. So one of my friends, a friend who I studied with in Qom, who's in England right now, he messaged me the other day. He said, did you see the new Mission Impossible movie? I was like, no, I haven't seen it yet. He said, because there was a lot of interesting questions about akhlaq and morality. He's like, I want to discuss that. Now, how many people think about answering akhlaqi questions and watching a movie like Mission Impossible, right? Most people, probably not. Or, for example, those of you who are into superhero movies, right? I'm a big Marvel fan, and DC, but DC movies, they suck, but whatever. So, like Infinity War is an excellent movie to talk about, think about the character of Thanos, right? Thanos is trying to do what he feels is right, what he feels is good. So he's trying to make the decision, right, to wipe, I don't know, spoiler alert, whatever. If you didn't see it, it's too bad, right? To wipe out half of everything that exists, or everybody that exists. So he's trying to do what's right, but where is he basing his decision on, right? He's harming half of existence because he thinks he's doing what's right. So somebody who watches that movie could ask the same question, right? Like, okay, I make all these decisions in my life. How do I know I'm doing the right thing or not? Sometimes, especially when it comes to the way that we act in the masjid, in our centers, especially in the month of Muharram, when we're performing azadari, when we're trying to express our love for Imam Hussein. Some of us might be thinking we're making the right decision, but unfortunately, although we think we're showing love for Abu Abdullah, we're actually showing love for our own egos. It's actually not Imam Hussein and azadari that we're actually engaging in. It's actually worship of your own ego and your own self. And you can see that when individuals fight over different things regarding azadari. As we mentioned before, right? If you're fighting about the love of Imam Hussein, that's not the love of Imam Hussein. If you actually have the love of Imam Hussein, you'd never fight with somebody else who had that same love and wilayat in their hearts. Right? So these are some ways that you can judge if you have that connection to God or not. Salawat ala Muhammad wa I think next one, maybe we'll make this the last one for tonight, and probably the most controversial tonight as well. Non-Muslims always ask, if Islam forbids self-harm, why do people hit themselves with blades, on the 10th of Muharram? How do we reply? So, obviously this is a controversial topic. Although every Muharram, this question's asked, right? I'm sure every speaker that comes, somebody's going to ask this question every time about zanjir zani, tatbir, qama, right? Blood matam. So, I'm going to give you the opinions of the scholars. This is not me. I'm not giving you my own personal opinion on this matter. I'm telling you what the scholars believe and the fatwas that they have. If that upsets you, then I apologize. But again, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here just to tell you what the scholars are saying. And again, these are not scholars who are doing this to make you upset. They are researching all this from the Quran, from the Seerah and the words of the Ahlul Bayt. They're not doing this to try to stop azadari or try to stop you from expressing your love from the Ahlul Bayt. But we have to keep in mind, sometimes the way that we want to express our love for the Ahlul Bayt might not be something that the Ahlul Bayt want us to do. I'm not saying zanjir is a case of that, but I'm saying we should think about that. Is the way that we're expressing our love something that the Ahlul Bayt had encouraged? So, first we have to figure out what are the actual fatwas. And again, everybody can refer to their own specific marja. The general opinion for most of the marja is this. They don't give a absolute yes or no answer, meaning halal or haram answer. They say, just like many other rules in Islam regarding harmful things, they say, look, if doing this action, in our case, zanjir, tatbir, qama, blood matam, whatever, if doing this is going to lead you to extreme, immediate harm and darar, then you cannot do it. Or if it will damage the name of Islam. So there's two conditions here. If it damages the name of Islam, or if it extremely will damage you, then you cannot do it. So now, who gets to decide what is extreme damage and what is damage to the name of Islam? And the answer is, there's a concept in fiqh known as tashkhis al-wudu, is that you, every one of us who's performing taqleed to whatever ayatollah and marja that you perform, a marja will give you the rule, and you have to go apply that rule yourself. Nobody can tell you how to apply the rule. This same issue will come for blood matam. It'll also apply for things like music. It'll apply for smoking. It'll apply for a lot of different rulings. Nobody can tell you how to apply that ruling. So, I'll give you an example. For smoking, if your marja says the same thing, if it leads to extreme harm, you can't do it. So who gets to define that? You have to go and do your own research, right? Medical research, for example, and see, what do medical experts say? Would smoking one cigarette, for example, cause immediate and extreme harm, irreversible harm? If your research shows that yes, it will, then for you specifically, having done that research, it's haram. But for the person sitting next to you, who let's say they've done their research, and they say, well, I've researched some medical literature, and it says that, yes, smoking is harmful, but not that extreme. Like down the line, it might cause some damage to your lungs, etc., but it's not going to kill you right away, or it won't completely damage your body right away. So for that individual, it's allowed. So two people following the same marja could be applying the rule differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, because it's based on your own private, subjective research, provided you're doing the correct research, right? Not like Googling something and then taking the first hit. No, like doing proper research. So with blood matam, zanjir, qama, tatbir, same exact thing if that's what your marja says, right? So you have to do the research and find, does blood matam in whatever way, shape, or form, does it lead to immediate extreme harm? Or is that fear there? If it is, it's haram for you. If you don't have that fear, then it would be allowed for you to do. The other part of the condition, which is damaging the name of Islam. Again, you're going to have to figure out how that rule applies. And people have opinions and arguments on both sides. You know, one side will say, listen, people, when they see that kind of love we express for the Ahlul Bayt, when we take it to these quote-unquote extremes, they say there must be something special about these Ahlul Bayt that people are willing to harm themselves. So sometimes people get attracted to Islam or Shia Islam because of that. So people respond and say, maybe that happens in certain places in the world, but right now the general consensus is no, this is damaging the name of Islam. Right? If you look at all the hits online, when you first, for example, Google image search Shia, it comes up with pictures of people who are, drenched in blood. And those people, they don't research about Shia Islam and they keep away because of this. So people can go back and forth in these arguments. And again, the arguments are fairly useless. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's up to you individually. You do your research and you apply it yourself. Don't take your opinion and try to force that down somebody's throat, especially in these kind of fatwas, because that's not the opinion of the Marajih. Again, check with your own marja. I gave the opinion of most of the Marajih. For example, someone like Aydul Sistani, this would be his opinion. Some Marajih out there do say categorically that it is haram. But again, I would ask you to go research your own marja yourself. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If anybody wants to discuss this or any of the other questions further, inshallah, like Dr. Qalib was saying, after the program tonight, so as soon as the matam is finished, you can grab your food. I'll be up here, so men and women, whoever would like to join, we're just going to have not a formal Q&A, just kind of a casual, informal discussion, inshallah. So now, inshallah, we'll move on to our main topic. If you can send another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So let's quickly recap what we had stated last night. Our topic is Salatul Mu'min. What does the prayer of a mu'min, the prayer of a high-level believer, what does it look like? We were talking 2 nights ago about the kind of benefits and the reasons for why we perform wudu. What's the spiritual benefits to that? Then we talked last night about what is in our minds, what causes us to pray in the first place. So we said that there were 3 different types of Muslims, right? Or 3 different levels or reasons why we're going to do something wajib like pray. So one reason might be because of social or cultural pressures. Everybody else is doing it. If I don't do it, I'll look bad, right? So you don't really care for it. You just don't want to look bad in the community or in front of your parents. The second group would be people who are doing it for the sense of reward and punishment. I'm doing it so that I can end up going to heaven, right? I want to do that so I get whatever I ask Allah for. I make dua, I have hajat and desires. If I do my wajibat, Allah is more likely to answer and give me what I want, right? So we said that this is like treating Allah like he's a genie in a bottle, basically, right? Asking for your wishes. Or the other part of it is, I don't want to go to hell. So that's why I do these wajibat. That's the second level. And the last and final, or the highest level, would be somebody who prays purely out of the sake of wanting to talk to and connect with Allah. They enjoy having that conversation with God every day. So we said, how do we get to that level? We gave examples of the Ma'sumin and how their level of prayer was. We said, how did they get that? Because they had complete ma'rifat of Allah. They had a complete understanding and recognition of who God is. And they're able to see God every day, in every moment, in everything that they do. So how do we get to that same level? We said there's 2 main things that are getting in our way, or 2 main steps we have to take. One is we have to destroy our egos, which inshallah we'll always touch on every night. And there was one question on Slido related to this, which inshallah we'll try to address tomorrow. One is we have to get rid of that sense of self, that ego, that hawa, that blocks us from getting to Allah. Once those blocks are gone, then we can increase in our ma'rifat of God. Okay, so what are some practical steps for that? We said one major step that we have to take is recognizing the blessings, what God's done for us in our life, right? Specifically when we're about to pray, right? You just think to yourself, I couldn't even be standing here if God didn't create me. I wouldn't be able to breathe. I wouldn't be able to think. You reflect on all these blessings in your life, and that should give you a sense of humility. Now, some people respond and say, okay, I know that God made me and He gave me all this stuff, but I'm still not connected. There's still something that's blocking my heart. So that's when we move on to our second point. We said that if we have serious doubts and questions about the religion, that's going to block us from getting that connection to God as well. If we have serious shak, whether it's some philosophical issue, theological issue, a legal issue, whatever it is. There's some doubt that's creeping in our hearts and our minds, and that's blocking us from connecting better with Allah. And if that doubt lingers, it gets worse and worse and deeper, right? We said shak means to pierce and puncture something. That doubt will puncture your heart and your mind, and it will get worse and worse and worse, like driving on a flat tire. So the solution, according to the Imam, was you have to continue and increase your contemplation. Research more, think more. And especially given us in this society, we have more opportunities than anybody else to get our answers, right? We have so much at our disposal. So, now we're going to move on to more practical tips about how to make sure we're ready to answer some of these doubts, and how do we do research that will get us more ma'rifat of Allah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One of the main criterias and factors and preliminary steps in order to learn and gain more information about Allah is khushu', humility, tawadu. You have to be humble enough to want to learn. And this is the most difficult step, right? This ties hand in hand with this idea of ego. And there's so much that we can talk about. And there's a really interesting passage from Nahj al-Balagha from Imam Ali alayhi salam. I want to read the whole paragraph because it is really, really nice, right? And I'm going to skip the Arabic because it is long. So I'm just going to give a translation of it, inshallah. And I'll read it and reflect on it, and then we'll dissect it a little bit. But before I do that, if, again, you guys can move up because there's a few people waiting outside. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Don't be afraid to sit close together, right? Hopefully you all showered before you came, so nobody's stinking up the place. Or at least put on some cologne or itar or something, right? So people aren't bothered by sitting next to you. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So Imam says, the ignorant one is someone who considers himself an alim, someone who considers himself knowledgeable about what he's in fact ignorant of. So the first quality Imam talks about is a jahil. A person who really is ignorant is somebody who actually thinks he's an alim. He's a know-it-all. He thinks, I know about it, whatever. And he's content and he's okay with his own opinion, right? I'm sure we've met many individuals in our lives who are like that, right? You try to question them or critique them about something, about Islamic history, or actually, I thought the fatwa was this. Like, no, I think I know better, right? They have that air of arrogance in them. They're not even willing to listen to anybody else. Well, what do you know? You're, especially with elders and children, right? What do you know? You're just a kid. I've been Muslim for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. What do you know? You just read one book and you think you can tell me what Islam is? A lot of people have this arrogant attitude, right? His attachment, the Imam says, his attachment to scholars only increases his separation from knowledge, since he's constantly finding fault with them. Have speakers sometimes when they come, scholars come, and some people, very legitimately, they're asking questions because they want to know. They'll say, Hasan, I have this question. I really don't know. I've heard this, but I'd like to know. So they ask. Other times they're like, you know what, this is what I heard. Let's see what you have to say now. Right? And then if I give a different answer, they're like, well, I heard differently, and then they start going on and say, well, I don't think that's the case, and I studied too, and I listen to lectures online, and they go on and on. I say, okay, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, assalamu alaikum, see you later. What are you going to do with somebody like that? Right? You can't really do much. So when they ask questions, they're just trying to test how much that scholar knows. They don't want to learn anything. They just want to, shut that scholar down, basically. And especially when it happens in Q&As, when everybody else can hear, there's always that person that wants to show off how much he's read or studied. And since we are going to have an informal Q&A later on, everybody should be careful of that, right? Let's say, well, Hasan, when I was reading this book, and they quote the name of the scholar, this century, or whatever, and my Arabic is pretty strong, so I was able to read it in the original Arabic, and they go on, and this and that. Like, okay, what's your question? I didn't have one, I just wanted to share with you my opinion. Okay, thank you, Jazakallah, I appreciate that. So, Imam continues. He deems invalid the views of those who oppose him, and that which he doesn't understand, he sees as wrong. So, right? If you give a difference of opinion, if you say something that the person doesn't like, they jump on you. Like, no, that's not right. I don't agree. So I'll give Well, actually, no, let me not give that example. That might make somebody upset. Let me leave that alone. If he comes across something that he doesn't know, he denies it and he falsifies it, saying, pay attention to this line, and I'm saying that this person, when he comes across something that he doesn't agree with, or he doesn't know, first he denies it, and then what does he add? He says, I have never heard this, or I don't think this is possible, or how can this be, or where did this come from? And these lines are verbatim what some people say, right? When you talk to certain individuals in the community. You say that, oh, actually, you know, the fatwa is actually this. Where'd you hear that? I've never heard that. I don't think it could be true. Just because you've never read it, like, have you literally gone through every Islamic book that's available? Because you haven't gone through this book. You think you know everything? Come on, humble yourself a little bit. Okay? And what's the reason for this? Imam continues, this is due to his confidence in his own opinion and the lack of awareness of his own ignorance. They call this jahl murakkab. You think you know, but you don't know that you don't know. Right? It's a sad state of affairs. For this reason, he's attached to what he sees as beneficial from his own mistaken opinion, and as a consequence, he denies the truth and he remains confused in his own ignorance, and he's too proud to seek knowledge. You know, sometimes you'll come across individuals where, let's say you try to be the humble one, right? They give their opinion, and you say, oh, you know, I heard this from one other scholar or alim, whatever, or I heard this in one lecture. So they'll say, no, I never heard that before. That's nonsense, you know. Say, oh, well, I can send you the article or I can send you the lecture. Like, no thanks. I don't need to bother. I know it's wrong. So they're not even willing to research. They're not even willing to learn anymore. You know, they have this famous story among the Zen Buddhists. Maybe you've heard it before, right? So they say this one kung fu master went to this Zen Buddhist, right? A Zen Buddhist master, and he wanted to learn from him. So this kung fu student or kung fu master, he had this idea in his mind that, you know, this is the Zen Buddhist, it's a bunch of nonsense, what am I going to really learn from them? But let me go see. So he goes to this Zen Buddhist, and he's like, okay, you know, teach me, let's see what you know. So every time the Zen Buddhist tries to teach this kung fu master a move, he's like, yeah, we already have that in kung fu, I already know that. It's like, okay. It's like, let me show you this one. It's like, no, I know something better, don't worry about it. It's like, okay. So he keeps trying to show him something. He's like, no, I know about that, I know something better. The same response every time. So then the Zen Buddhist says, you know what, let's have a chai break, let's have a tea break. So they go down, they sit down for tea, and the Zen Buddhist begins to pour for the Kung Fu master his tea, right? And then it gets to the top, and he continues to pour it over and over again, so it starts overflowing. And the Kung Fu master is like, hey, you know, what are you doing? Sensei, what are you doing here? You know, there's already enough chai, there's already enough tea, it's overflowing now. He's like, yeah, that's exactly the point. How can you ever accept my tea if your cup is full? So when you come to a teacher, when you come to a master, empty your cup, then come before them. In the same way, if we're going to come and try to come to a majlis, we're going to listen to a lecture, we're going to converse with other people, whether it's from our own school of thought, another Shia, somebody from another school of thought of Islam, like Ahlul Sunnah, or even somebody who believes in any other faith, Christian, Jew, atheist, whatever. Keep an open mind when you're talking to them, because I guarantee if you go in with the mindset that I guarantee this person in their life, there's some information, there's some experience they have in their life that they can show me and I can learn from it. If you go in with that attitude, you will benefit from every single moment, every single experience in your life. And you'll start to grasp wisdom from people, because everybody lives their lives differently. Even an atheist who, let's say, hates religion, there's something that they know that I guarantee none of us in this room know. And sitting down with them for a little while and learning one thing will be beneficial, right? So let's keep that attitude of humility as we start to learn and become closer to the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim as-salam. So this was another block that's going to stop us from gaining that high level of recognition and ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next block, or the next category, the next factor, is hubb dunya, loving or being attached to this world. So what does that mean? Now this itself deserves its own lecture. I just want to mention a few points for us to think about today, inshallah. Now hubb dunya is so important. According to our ma'asumeen, we have a hadith that's narrated from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says رأس كل خطية حب الدنيا. The origin, the start, the beginning, the inception, the genesis of every mistaken sin is حب الدنيا, is having love and connection and attachment to this world. So the first question and the first idea in our mind is, okay, what is حب الدنيا? What does it mean to love this world? Usually people ask the question, and they ask the imams as well. Does that mean we can't have nice things? Like, does that mean we can't have money? Does that mean we can't get good jobs? We can't have nice clothes or nice cars or nice houses? What does it mean to be in love with the world? Does that mean we have to live like bums? Like, how are we supposed to understand this idea? So the key here, I'm going to illustrate inshallah through a famous story that's told among the students in the Hawza. So there is another story we have here of a high-level arif, a Sufi master, and somebody who is very skeptical of this Sufi master, right? Somebody who really didn't buy into spirituality and this and that. He was a Muslim, but he didn't really like this kind of Sufi spiritual stuff. He said, but you know what, I'll go and I'll meet him and let's see if the hype lives up to it. So he goes and visits this individual, he drives to his house. And when he gets and he parks, he sees that this Sufi arif master is living in this huge mansion, right? This huge, huge house. So he's like, all right, now I know why he's in love with God, because this is the kind of house he has, right? I'd be in love with God too if I had that kind of house. It's like, okay, whatever. So he goes inside, says salam, they greet each other, he comes inside. And he sees that this Sufi master has the nicest clothes too. So he's thinking in the back of his mind, like, okay, what kind of arif and master is this? Nice car, huge house, he's dressing in nice clothes, like, when we think of a Sufi master or an arif, we think of somebody very humble, they talk quietly, they look down all the time, or whatever, right? They have this softness about them. They don't get attached to the world. They eat very little. They eat simple things. But this student, this Muslim student of the Hawza is looking at this arif. He's like, he's not meeting any of the criteria. He doesn't seem to have any of these characteristics. But whatever. He's like, I'll keep an open mind. Fine. So then they go and they sit down for lunch. When they sit down for lunch, the sufre, right, the dastakhan, the tablecloth comes out, and it's every single kind of food available. So he's like, that's like the last straw for him. He's like, hold on a second. I thought you urafa, you mystical, spiritual, Gnostic, Sufi masters were supposed to live humble, simple lives. You've got this amazing house, amazing car, you've got nice clothes, you got all these things, and better than me. Obviously, this is not the way that a Sufi arif master should live. It's like, you're a joke, you're a fraud. And so the Sufi master very humbly replied, he said, there's a difference between having these items and then being attached to them. It's like, I don't have an attachment to this. He's like, I can leave these things, everything, I'll leave all this behind right now and, we'll go. He's like, for example, if you want to go right now and go move to Iraq or go to Ziyara, I'll say, let's leave it all, let's go right now. He's like, oh really? He's like, yeah, let's go. He's like, okay, fine, let's go. So this student and the arif, they just got up and they just walked out. He said, I'm not even going to lock the door. He's like, because I'm not attached to these things. So they get in the car and they start driving towards Iraq, to the Haram. After a few miles, the student stops and is like, oh, he forgot his, the abba, the cloth, the cloak. He's like, oh my God, I forgot my cloak in the house, in the house. He's like, yeah, that's okay. He's like, whatever, you can keep going. He's like, no, it's a very, very nice abba, I got it. It was given to me. I really, I love that abba. He said, this is the difference between you and I. He's like, I left behind my house, didn't even lock the door, I don't care about my car, I don't care about my food, none of that. But you, even for a piece of cloth, you're stressed out, you're anxious. You can't even go and meet with your imam because you're stuck worrying about a piece of clothing. It's like, that's the difference between having dunya and being in love with dunya. You can have nice things, you can have money, you can have a nice house and all that. But are you willing to give it up at a moment's notice? If the Imam of the time was to return right now, for example, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif. If he was to return right now and he said to you, listen, we need some money to start an Islamic movement. I need you to sell your house, liquidate all your assets, and everything in cash, and I need it ASAP. How many of us would be willing to do something like that? Now you might say, yeah, of course I'll do that for the Imam. Like, okay, fine. Let's say your marja comes and does that, and asks for that. Would you be willing to do that? And say, well, marja, I don't know, those guys get homes, I don't know if they need my money, right? Then, okay, fine. Well, what about a local scholar that comes and says, listen, I need help. I'm running a project where I'm trying to publish a book, and we need help and funding for the publishing. Well, Malana, I don't know, maybe you should get a job, and I think you should self-publish. It's tough for us right now. Economy's not doing well. Trump screwed up everything. I can't really help you out. Sorry. Say, okay, fine, no problem. What about if one of your needy brothers or sisters in the community comes and says, I need a couple $100. I'm not doing so well right now, right? Just a simple loan or whatever. Would you be able to do something like that? Or would you, in the back of your mind, say, well, do they really need it? Are they just going to go and spend it on something else they don't need? What exactly goes on in your mind? Are you willing to give up this stuff right away? If you're attached to it, it's going to be very difficult. But if you're not attached, and especially if you recognize that it's all a gift from Allah, it's actually Allah's property, it's not even our property, then you'll be able to give it away right away. You have this famous hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He says that if you want to see what a true community, a true brotherhood or sisterhood is like, he said true brothers and sisters would be such that if a brother of yours reached into your pocket without you looking and grabbed whatever they wanted, you would have a problem with that. Imagine, would you ever give your ATM card or your bank information to somebody in the community here and say, listen, take out whatever you want, I'm not even going to question it. I'm not even going to look at the transaction history. If you ever need anything, take any amount you want. The Imam is saying that's the definition of brotherhood or sisterhood, of being close. And we have in other narrations that the fastest way to Tawheed, the closest way to make a relationship to Allah, is to make those relationships between your brothers and sisters, your fellow mu'mineen, mu'minat. So if you want to, like somebody had asked, you want to judge how connected you are to Allah, see how connected you are to your community. How many fights do we get into? How close are we? Do we know the financial and spiritual and mental health situations of people in our communities or not? If we don't, then that means we need to step up our game, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So hubb al-dunya was something else that's going to block us from getting to Allah. So inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow with, in the beginning, we're going to answer a few more questions, and then we're going to continue on this topic of getting more ma'rifat of Allah. What are some of the blocks? What are some of the ways that we can be more mindful and understanding and connected to God, especially in our prayers? And then we'll also continue with some of the spiritual and deep philosophical reasons for why we pray and why we do certain actions within Salah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If we were to have this idea of having a Tawheedi, God-centric household, and we made sure as parents, as brothers, as sisters, as children, to make sure that the main priority and focus in our house was Allah, was Tawheed, and the love of Ahlul Bayt, then, especially us as parents, if we do that, the children that we're going to have will be much more connected to Ahlul Bayt and much more connected to Allah. When parents are able to impart the true teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, and they do it with the same instructions that the Ahlul Bayt had given. And inshallah we'll mention some more points about Islamic parenting in the coming nights. When you do that, you see the natural results. Look at the children of the Ahlul Bayt. Look at the children and the parents of the Shuhada of Karbala. They were able to raise their children as young as 4 years old, 5, 6, 7, up to 12, 11. All of these children were able to have enough ma'rifat that they were able to give up their lives for the sake of Iman and the sake of Islam. Now, how many of us as parents can say that our children are ready to do something like that? That kind of taqwa-oriented household, where the main idea, the main theme in the house is love, muhabbat, forgiveness, connection to Allah, connection to the Ahlul Bayt. And you see, when you have parents like Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar and Zaynab bint Ali, obviously you're going to get children like Aun and Muhammad. You have these young children, according to some historians, 9 and 11 years old. These two connected brothers who were able to have enough ma'rifah that they were willing to give up everything for the sake of their uncle, for the sake of their imam, for the sake of Allah. You know, a lot of times when we pay our respects to Zaynab, we do so after Ashura, right? We say for Sham al-Ghariba, for example, that's when the gham and the musibah for her starts. Or we wait until Kufa, or we wait until talking about Sham. We say this is where the musibah of Zaynab starts. But mu'minat, think about why is Zainab al-Masa'ib? And how come we don't call Imam Hussein Abu al-Masa'ib? We say Zainab is the mother of musibah and tragedy, but Hussein isn't the father of tragedy. Why? With all due respect to Imam Hussein is a ma'soom imam. And Zainab, she's not an imam, but her isma, the way that she became ma'sooma, is because of her pure connection to her brother. Not because it's her brother, but because that's her imam. And you see how that translates into her life and into her teachings. Zainab and Hussein were so close growing up. Some of the narrations say that when Zainab was born, when she was a young baby, she would cry a lot. And Bibi Fatima would take her and wouldn't be able to sometimes quiet her. And Ali would take her and would try to rock her back and forth, and she wouldn't stop crying. But they said that when they took her and they put her in the hands of Hussein, when Hussein would take Zainab in his godi, then she would calm down and she'd be happy then. They say even as children they were connected. Ajlukum ala Allah. When Amir al-Mu'mineen gave his daughter Zainab to Abdullah ibn Ja'far, he put a condition, a shart in the marriage contract. He said, Ya Abdullah, I'll give you my daughter Zainab with one shart, with one condition. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, anything you say I'll do. He says, make sure you never let my Zainab and my Hussein become separated. If Hussein ever goes somewhere and Zainab wants to follow, never stop her. Always let her follow her Hussein. We hear that on the night of Ashura, when Imam Hussein is going from tent to tent, hearing how all the family members are talking about the getting ready for jihad the next day. Abbas is getting the soldiers ready. We have Ali Akbar getting ready for battle. And then we see Zainab in one tent talking to An and Muhammad that, don't you want to make your father proud? Don't you want to go out and make your uncle Hussein proud? Now imagine what Hussein feels in his heart when he sees his nephews want to go out and die. Now what would you do if your nephews wanted to come and give up their life for something? You would want to protect the life of your family members, especially your young nephews. So when An and Muhammad on the day of Ashura go out and they ask for ijazah, Hussein turns his face away. How can I answer Abdullah on the day of judgment that you sent my children out to battle like this? They're 9 years old, they're 11 years old. How can you let people go out like this? So the children come back to Zainab, they say, Ya Amma, well, Amma, Hussein's not giving us, our Ammu's not giving us permission, what are we supposed to do? He says, don't worry, I have a solution. So Zainab dresses them up in nice clothes. She puts kajal and gold on their eyes. She beautifies her children. Look at a mother, look at how she's treating her children. She beautifies them for jihad and to get ready for maut. She dresses them up nicely. She says, now come with me, I'll get your ijazah. She comes to her brother Hussein and says, Hussein, you have to give them ijazah. You have to let them go out. He says, Zainab, how can I send this 9-year-old and 11-year-old out to battle? They're young kids. What would Abdullah say to me on the day of judgment? He says, Hussein, don't you know that Abdullah is the one who said that these are my wakil, these are my representatives in Karbala, since I can't come. This is my sacrifice to you. So now Hussein gives ijazah. Abbas begins to train them and teaches them the art of combat. He says, when your brother Muhammad's in trouble, you have to come back and defend him. Muhammad, if you see that An's in trouble, you have to come back and protect him as well. Stay together, never leave each other's side. Imagine Abbas is telling a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old how to ride a horse, how to go out and carry a sword. Can you imagine this? When they go out to battle, they tried their best to fight. They barely even fit on the horse, but they fought very valiantly. But some mal'oon would come and knock off An. An would scream for his brother, Ya Muhammad, adrikni. Muhammad would come around and try to help him. Another time someone would come and hit Muhammad from the back. Ya An, Ya akhi, come adrikni. They'd go and help each other. But when the battle became too much and they both fell down, then they called Hussein, Ya Hamur, adrikni. Adrikni. Ajrukum ala Allah. They say that every shaheed, when they were brought back from the battlefield, the mother of those shuhada, the mothers would come out first and fall on top of their children and call wa shahida wa ghurba. The mother of Qasim would fall on the broken body of Qasim. The mother of Ali Asghar came out. The mother of Ali Akbar came out. But when the bodies of An and Muhammad came out, Zainab stayed inside and she was in sujood praying, Rabbana taqabbal minna qurba. And they say Zainab never once shed a tear for her aunt Muhammad. When she was taken to the battlefield after Karbala, when Umar ibn Sa'd made the women and children go to the battlefield, she didn't go to the body of aunt Muhammad. She went to the body of Hussein and fell down on the body of her brother Nakhi Hussein. When she was taken through Kufa and through Sham, the whole time she kept her sabr and she was the leader of Azza. And finally, when she returns back to Medina, when she maybe looks at the beds, the small beds of Al Muhammad, when she finally reaches back and now she lets out her sigh of relief, Wa ana, wa Muhammada, wa Shahida. قال لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين سيعلمون الذين ظلموا انقلبوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما بأمره. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of Muhammad and Muhammad to forgive all mu'mineen, mu'minat, muslimin, muslimat, all our marhameen and marhamat. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of Muhammad and Muhammad to protect all those who are not doing well right now, especially those who are suffering in this hurricane on the East Coast. We ask you, Allah, to protect them and keep them safe. We ask you, Allah, by the right of An and Muhammad, to help us as parents raise our children to be like An and Muhammad, to have that same ma'rifat and connection to our Imam and to Allah. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. يا حسين
يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
Salawatu salam pe ya Fatima Zahra, salawatu salam pe ya Fatima Zahra. ہم آئے ہیں پوچھنے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا.
صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. ہم آئے ہیں پوچھنے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا.
زینب کے پسر محمد کبھی پرسا, زینب کے پسر محمد کبھی پرسا. اور اصغر بشیر کا یا فاطمہ زہرا.
صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا.
پامال کیا قاسم بے کس کی لاش کو, پامال کیا قاسم بے کس کی لاش کو. کبرا کبھی بیوہ کیا یا فاطمہ زہرا.
صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا.
عباس جو لشکر کا تھا سرور کے علمدار, عباس جو لشکر کا تھا سرور کے علمدار. دریاپوں سے قتل کیا فاطمہ زہرا.
صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا.
ہم کہتے ہیں پرسا تمہیں عباس سے جری تھا, ہم کہتے ہیں پرسا تمہیں عباس سے جری تھا. اور اکبر دیگیر کا یا فاطمہ زہرا.
صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا.
کانوں سے سکینہ کے اتارے گئے گوہر, کانوں سے سکینہ کے اتارے گئے گوہر. زینب کی بھی چھینی ہے ردا فاطمہ زہرا.
صلوات و سلام آپ پہ یا فاطمہ زہرا. सलात व सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं पुरसे के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा
कानों से सकीनों के उतारे गए गौहर कानों से सकीनों के उतारे गए गौहर ज़ैनब की भी छीनी है रिदा फातिमा ज़हरा
सलात व सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलात व सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं पुरसे के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा
बेली पिनाई तोहरी बदन जख्मी कर दिया बेली पिनाई तोहरी बदन जख्मी कर दिया सजाद को ये जुल्म किया फातिमा ज़हरा
सलात व सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलात व सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं पुरसे के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा
के पिसर बोलो मोहम्मद कभी पुरसा
या हुसैन
के पिसर बोलो मोहम्मद कभी पुरसा ज़ैनब के पिसर बोलो मोहम्मद कभी पुरसा और असगर बेशीर का या फातिमा ज़हरा
सलात व सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलात व सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं पुरसे के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा Hussein, Ya 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 Hussein. میخوام زیارت میخوام زیارت به عشق کربلایت به عشق کربلایت میخوام زیارت زیارت به عشق کربلایت به عشق کربلایت بعد زیارتت بعد زیارتت بعد زیارت تو آرزوم شهادت میخوام زیارت به عشق کربلایت 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 بعد زیارت تو آرزوم شهادت روز ازل دلم را بلای تو سرشته 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 خدا به روی قلبم زینب مدد نوشته حسین مدد نوشته علی مدد نوشته زهرا مدد نوشته حسن مدد نوشته عباس مدد نوشته خدا به روی قلبم زینب مدد نوشته خدا به روی قلبم زینب مدد نوشته بدونید ای مهندس منم گدای عباس بدونید ای مهندس منم گدای عباس برید مرغ قلبم کنار کف و عباس بدونید ای مهندس بدونید أيها الناس بدونید أيها الناس منم گدای عباس بدونید أيها الناس بدونید أيها الناس بدونید أيها الناس منم گدای عباس منم گدای عباس خرید مرغ قلبم خرید مرغ قلبم کنار کهف العباس کنار کهف العباس کنار کهف العباس میخوام میام زیارت میخوام میام زیارت عشق کربلای میخوام میام زیارت میخوام میام زیارت عشق کربلایت بعد زیارت تو بعد زیارت تو آرزوم شهادت آرزوم شهادت روز ازل دلم روز ازل دلم را بنای تو سرشته خدا به روی قلبم خدا به روی قلبم زینب مدد نوشته حسین مدد نوشته حسن مدد نوشته علی مدد نوشته زهرا مدد نوشته زینب مدد نوشته عباس مدد نوشته عباس مدد نوشته یا سیدی یا عباس 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 زنگ در به خانه زینب نمای یا حسین قلب من از کودکی شدا شنای یا حسین من ندانم این چه سریست که در میان روزه ها بر مشامم میرسد هر لحظه بوی کربلا لب تو تن به لعله لب ساغر میزنه همه دل ها برای عشق تو پر پر میزنه توی چشمای سیاه دل من سر میزنه جذبه چشم تو به چشمای حیدر میزنه اسم تو نقطه پرگار دلای عالمه اگه عالم بدونه جون بدنم برات بازم کمه یا حسین حسین 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 یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
نور عيني يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين نور عيني يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين نور عيني يا حسين يا سراج الله كيف النور يخفو نور عيني يا حسين يا سراج الله كيف النور يخفو نور عيني يا حسين هكذا البعد من سوح الموت صعب نور عيني يا حسين يا سراج الله كيف النور يخفو نور عيني يا حسين هكذا البعد البعد بسوح الموت صعب.
نور عيني يا حسين
كيف يعلو الكفر والإيمان يحبو.
نور عيني يا حسين
بيديه القيد والسجاد يكبو.
نور عيني يا حسين
بتر الحبل المتين. نور
عيني يا حسين
بتر الحبل المتين.
نور عيني يا حسين
سيدي هل وقد حل الظلام.
نور عيني يا حسين
سيدي هل وقد حل الظلام.
نور عيني يا حسين
وجميع الأهل في الرمضاء ناموا.
نور عيني يا حسين
سيدي بعدك أصبى وأضاموا.
نور عيني يا حسين
سيدي بعدك أصبى وأضاموا.
نور عيني يا حسين
أنا لا نمت وقد مات الإمام.
نور عيني يا حسين
كيف يرقم أين العدالة.
نور عيني يا حسين
أين الحق أم أين العدالة.
نور عيني يا حسين
يهضم السبط لدى جيش الضلالة.
نور عيني يا حسين
كيف ترضى يا ابن من هد الجهالة.
نور عيني يا حسين
بين سيف الله يا طه وآله.
نور عيني يا حسين
يا ابن أمي يا حسين. نور عيني
يا حسين
يا ابن أمي يا حسين. نور عيني
يا حسين
أنت مع متسم تبقى للخلود.
نور عيني يا حسين
أنت مع متسم تبقى للخلود.
نور عيني يا حسين
وستبقى صرخة ضد الجحود.
نور عيني يا حسين
وستبقى كاسرا أقصى القيود.
نور عيني يا حسين
وستعطي درس عزم وصمود.
نور عيني يا حسين
سوف ترقى الخافقين.
نور عيني يا حسين
سوف ترقى الخافقين.
نور عيني يا حسين 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 يا حسين
شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے
زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے
سجاد نو لے ٹر پئیے کیویں بھیڑ بازار چ گئی زینب جانے
شان شام تے زینب جانے جانے 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 شام تے زینب جانے
کربل دی جنگ شبیر لڑی وچ شام دے پر اوکھی سی گئی جتے سامنا سینہ مہر مدا کتے زینب رہی خاموش کھڑی کتے ذاکرے بن گئی ہے کیویں چھڑکا سیندی رہی ہے زینب جانے
جانے شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے
ماں سہرا بھی دربار گئی وچ بر کے دے گفتار رہی زینب بھی دربار دے بے پردہ
دی سند دے ٹکڑے کیتے اے چادر منگ دی رہی اے زینب جانے جانے شام تے 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 زینب جانے سجاد نو لے ٹر گئی ہے کیویں بھیڑ بازار چ گئی ہے زینب جانے جانے شام تے 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 زینب جانے اے حوصلہ اون دی ماں دا اے دربار چ وقت قضا دا اے جھگڑا اے نوازی اے جھگڑا اج وفا دا اے عباس علی بن گئی ہے کیویں شامی سامنے رہی ہے زینب جانے جانے شام تے 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 زینب جانے ایک ایسا وقت بھی آیا سی ظالم نے حکم سنایا سی دربار چ قتل کرو زینب امام بچایا سی اند صدقے امامت رہی ہے کیویں نسل بچائے گئی ہے زینب جانے جانے شام تے 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 زینب جانے اج قیدی بن کے آئی گدی ملکہ بن کے آئی سی کیتا سورج نے پردہ کوفے نے فضیلت پائی سی کتے روشانہ کتے اج زینب کیویں کوفے تو لگ گئی ہے زینب جانے جانے شام تے 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 زینب جانے ماں زہرا بھی دربار گئی وچ برکے دے گفتار رہی زینب بھی دربار دے بے پردہ لاچار رہی او دی سند دے ٹکڑے کیتے اے چادر منگ دی رہی اے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے جانے شام تے زینب جانے یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
پارا پارا ہو کے زہرا کا کلے جا نہ جائے دب کے گھوڑوں کے سوموں سے شے کالا شار نہ جائے دب کے گھوڑوں کے سوموں سے شے کالا شار نہ جائے دب کے گھوڑوں کے سوموں سے شے کالا شار نہ جائے دب کے گھوڑوں کے سوموں سے کالا شار نہ جائے
گیا دو یزیدی اے حسین ابن علی ابھی دنیا چاہتی ہے تیرا چرچا رہنا جائے سب کے روڑوں کے صوبوں سے شہکارا شاہ رہنا جائے پانی کا باغے جائیں گے بولا اور مولا پانی کا باغے جائیں گے بولا اور مولا پیر و ماروں کے مشکل میں خطرہ رہنا جائے سب کے روڑوں کے صوبوں سے کالا شاہ رہنا جائے ماں کو یہ ارمان تھا بچہ میرا نوشہ بنے ماں کو یہ ارمان تھا بچہ میرا نوشہ بنے ماں کو ضد تھی رخ قاسم پہ ٹھہرا رہنا جائے سب کے روڑوں کے صوبوں سے کالا شاہ رہنا جائے کام کرنے کا چلا ہے جو سوئے اکبر لئی کام کرنے کا چلا ہے جو سوئے اکبر لئی چت کے بچی میں محمد کا کر جا رہنا جائے سب کے روڑوں کے صوبوں سے کالا شاہ رہنا جائے مولا نے تیر مارا کہہ کے یہ بے شیلو مولا نے تیر مارا کہہ کے یہ بے شیلو اب کا پیل یہ معصوم جیسا رہنا جائے رب کے گھوڑوں کے صوبوں سے کالا شاہ رہنا جائے بولی بانو مجھ کو دفنا جو میرے بچے کے ساتھ بولی بانو مجھ کو دفنا جو میرے بچے کے ساتھ اصغر دیشی غربت میں اکیلا رہنا جائے سب کے گھوڑوں کے صوبوں سے کالا شاہ